Hi, I'm James from the Tuesday Review, and I'm here with Neil, the creator of the DuckPac supplement to RuneQuest tabletop RPG. And we're going to talk about a bit about his career and what led him to creating this wonderful book, which we got to play a round of last night here at Chaosium Con in Melbourne. Yeah, so Neil, thank you for sitting down with us. How did you get into writing and creating and into the RPG space?
Sure. I mean, initially it started way back, if you cast your mind back to the 80s. So when I was first playing RuneQuest in its first and second edition, me and the friends used to play over summer holidays, and there weren't many supplements out at the time, so we would write scenarios for each other. I've still got a stack of the old A5 exercise books that I got from school with all the stats of the creatures and whatever, so I've always had an interest in it. But now with the event of the Johnstown Compendium community program that Chaosium have put out, I've been able to spend some of my spare time expanding on that history of playing, and with a colleague of mine, Drew Baker, we've created a number of different publications. So I'd love to call it a career, but unfortunately it's a bit of it's a passion project.
It's more like a side. Okay, that's interesting. So you didn't go to school for any creative or writing?
No, I mean, I think I'm generally creative in my actual career, in my day job.
Okay.
So I do some graphic design, and I read a lot, but I certainly haven't been to university for any kind of formal education on it. Yeah.
Did you do the artwork or the design for the book?
So I did the art direction.
Okay.
And I did all of the layout, and then we use contract artists who then provide the artwork based on the art direction. That is with the exception of one of the artists, Mark Baldwin, who did my lovely t-shirt. He is a fantastic artist, but his proviso is, I'm not going to charge you, but I don't take art direction. So give me the PDF to have a look at. I will draw what takes my sparks my interest, and if you use it, great. If you don't, no loss. And we've used pretty much everything he's done. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so he has a good eye.
Yeah,
we love the design of all the ducks. We played as all our duck characters, and I was very connected to mine.
That's great.
I love the way they look. But in terms of the writing, so with the community commons, there's different ones for different Chaosium properties.
Yeah.
So this one for RuneQuest, I guess it's you're legally allowed to use the RuneQuest world or Glorantha, but you get to write your own adventure and your own sort of scenarios, and then you're allowed to publish and do like a bit of a sharing thing with Chaos.
So generally, so the way it works is you have you can publish anything you want within the RuneQuest and Gloranthan framework, as long as it's on this particular platform, which is Drive-Thru-RPG. It's initially released as a PDF, but then they've organised basically a level that if you sell over a certain amount, you can then put it as print on demand. So not all community content goes as print on demand. And in fact, the Johnstown Compendium is probably the highest selling of all of the community in terms of copies in quantity, compared to Miskatonic University, which is the Call of Cthulhu one, which has a lot of content, but ordinarily doesn't sell as many units. And we think that's maybe because Call of Cthulhu has a lot of external supplements itself, and Call of Cthulhu as a setting is set in the real world. So people can do their own history and own library use to actually formulate the background. Whereas Glorantha it's expansive and there's a lot of lore out there, but there are also a lot of gaps. So for example, for the ducks or the drools, which were a little bit of a joke race for a lot of people, like early artwork showed them as Daffy Duck and Howard the Duck archetypes. Pretty bad. So we wanted to take that, turn them into realised creatures, and then just was able to expand on the very small snippets of lore that were through the current publications. So, I mean, these are by no means canon. They're very much community, but a lot of the community uses them for source material.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't, because it feels like it should be and always has been a part of it, I guess. So when you came up with the idea, it's like, we want to take the rules seriously and start writing the book. What was the process like? Did you create it all and then you're like, okay, now we're going to submit it to the Commons and see what they say, or how does it work?
Well, on that fact, you don't actually even have to go through any kind of approvals process.
Okay.
So as long as there are some particular rules that you can talk to the ambassadors about, but generally it's pretty open. And because it's not canon, you can do whatever you like. They also have a framework of your Glorantha may vary, which means just because it says X, Y, Z in a particular source book, you as players can do whatever you like. You know, you're not playing within a very strict framework. In terms of the ducks, the story of the ducks that we worked from, and we're talking maybe a few pages at most.
In the original.
Correct, yeah.
Source,
so we were able to expand on that, and they have a very, very tragic backstory. So rather than being seen as comic relief, we wanted to really kind of lean into that Shakespearean tragedy of the ducks and really kind of flesh them out. And it actually worked out to be really, really easy and great fun as well.
They are noble little creatures. We love our ducks.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're very put upon, very fiercely. You know, they've got a lot of pride, and they've just been undertrodden by various invading and local tribes. So yeah, they're always on the back foot, little guys.
Take advantage of them.
Yeah.
DuckPac.
Sure.
Why not QuackPac?
QuackPac would be good, but well, because ducks don't quack in Glorantha. Because they talk their own language, so they talk the common tongue. The other reason was one of the original box set publications was called TrollPac. So we wanted to, and I don't know why, it's spelt without a K, so I really don't know why.
It's like a rapper 2-pack.
Exactly.
Duck 2-pack.
So we just riffed on that basically. And,
it makes sense as well, because you're taking them seriously, whereas QuackPac sounds like a joke name. DuckPac, it's like DuckPac's the expansion, like TrollPac was also.
And visually it's shorter as well.
Yeah, more clean.
But one of the things we definitely wanted to get away from was the old depictions of the duck being that kind of really cartoon. So you would have seen from the pre-gens that we played, we actually went through and researched a lot of duck species and modelled the artwork based on that. We also took the aspect of iridescent feathers, meaning like higher birth and nobility, whereas dour brown feathers meant, you know, that's more the kind of common class.
Yeah, I like that. My character was Anchor Little Bill. She had like really deep emerald green. So that was cool. It was like a noble sort of character. And we had a lot of fun playing, the four of us with our individual duck characters, and the campaign was a lot of fun. How many sessions have you ran, and what's the response?
So of that one, we've run maybe 6 or 7 sessions outside of playtesting, and it's been different every time. I mean, obviously for a convention scenario, it's a bit trickier because you really have to compress it down, and it could be that, you know, combat takes really, as you would have seen, it's very random, it's very deadly. In some instances, you know, it's last 1 round. In other instances, it's lasted 6 rounds and half the characters have died. So it's really, really varied. But one thing you may have picked up on with your character as well is Anchor, I think, is Swedish for duck. So all of the names are actually foreign names for duck. So Pato, I think, is Spanish. Cool. But the thing I really love about running a scenario is, especially at cons, so I run one called the Stealing the Eye at sessions. They're a lot shorter. They're generally at things like PAX and Gen Con, and they're introductory scenarios. I've probably run it upwards of 30 to 40 times. It's different every single time.
Yeah.
Even last year I was playing and people were doing things that I've never even thought of doing. So it's fun every time. That's
great. What we like to try to do is like push the rules a little bit and see, do some crazy stuff that, the DM, the GM might not even think that players would try.
And even though you've got a framework of the scenario, it's what happens in there. As a GM, you can actually riff on what's happening. A classic example was, I think it was one of you was traveling through the marsh, and one of you decided to do fishing at the same time. And that's not in the scenario. And the person rolling a critical success and catching a record-breaking salmon, that's not in the scenario. But then it led on to the next step, which is you're then casting out again and you're pulling up a zombie. None of that is in the scenario. So that's all, it's within the framework of the sections of the scenario. So it's that kind of thing that makes a session completely different. So you can plan for some things, other things it just goes. And
that's the fun of it. It's like the unexpected, and each session is different. So I mean, now it's completed. So we're playing like the final version, but writing it and play testing it and then tuning it. What was that process like? How long did that take?
Well, because of those random elements, it is quite tricky, but there are very specific beats in the scenario. So one thing that we do test for is to make sure that there is an outcome, especially in a smaller scenario like that, and to make sure that there's an obvious pathway to that solution or to one of potentially many solutions. So making sure that there aren't any dead ends that you have to retrofit in playing it. So that's a big one. Also, making sure the creatures aren't overpowered. Any adversaries, but like I said, it's so random, it's quite hard to gauge.
Well, I like to point out there was a giant lizard creature that my character took down with its sword. So
interestingly, so in the last 4 examples of this that we've played, now ducks are traditionally seen as cursed creatures. Like they see themselves as cursed. They're very kind of woe is me. In every single session, we've had a really brutal fumble, which is a bad roll, and something negative has happened to the characters. And we've also had something insanely heroic happen, like your character completely dispatching this thing that was 10 times your size. So it's quite interesting.
That's what's great about we were playing one of the Cthulhu games before. It's like just when you think you're down, and you think, oh no, we might as well give up. There's always a bit where you sort of bounce back. And so it's so much fun. Do you have any, for someone who either wants to create their wholly original work or wants to use the existing RuneQuest or the existing Cthulhu and use the not Creative Commons? It's Creative Commons? Community Commons, it wants to use that to publish in this existing space. What advice would you give to someone who is trying to create something like what you do?
Fundamentally, just do it. So anybody has access to it. Anybody can do it. It doesn't matter if it's 10 pages or 1,000 is probably a bit much, but a couple of 100 pages. The other bit of advice is it's not going to go through any kind of quality control or submission process. So the fact that you're releasing a PDF initially means that you are going to be able to go back and update it, correct edits, or whatever. So when it's 80% done, it's pretty much good enough to release. Because a lot of people get really bogged down in the nitty-gritty, and it's never ever going to be up. Well, some are, but it's very difficult for it to be completely perfect. So just get it out there, and then you'll start seeing the feedback from the people who are engaging with the content, and then you can modify it from there. But everybody has to start somewhere, and it's just do it.
That's a good point. Yeah, because if you wait for it to be perfect, you're never gonna.
No, that's it. You're gonna get paralysed by analysis. So, and because, like I said, it is editable, and a lot of people actually appreciate that as well. So that they're hungry for content, get it out there, and then modify it as you go, and then hopefully you'll get to print on demand, and it'll be a more complete version.
I can't remember if it was you or someone else who was talking about like there was like a Facebook group who was really supportive of like, giving constructive advice.
So that would have been Nick Brook, who's the community or one of the community ambassadors. The Facebook group is really great. It's really positive. Everybody's really friendly with asking questions. Sometimes, there's no dumb questions. And there's a group, I believe, for each of the different community directories. So there's one for Miskatonic, there's one for Johnstown. I believe there's one for the Friends of Arthur as well, which is the Pendragon group. So yeah, they're really, really, really helpful. And it's full of creators who have already put it out there, so you don't have to make the same mistake twice.
There's already a roadmap. And
that's right. Yep. And also, most are fairly open with the sales and the number of publications they actually sell, so you can actually determine if it matters to you, what is popular and what might sell well. You're not going to retire on it, but it's it's not an insignificant amount of money.
Speaking of, where can people buy these?
Sure. So they can buy them at any of the Chaosium conferences. Some of the larger conferences, I believe they had it at PAX last year. So go to the Chaosium stand and they'll have a community printed section. Obviously it's only going to be the print on demand versions, but then also drive through RPG, search for Johnstown Compendium, and you can buy all the PDFs and all the print on demand stuff is in there as well. And they've got an Australian printer now, so people buying things in Australia don't have to wait for it to be printed and shipped from the US, which was horrendous before.
When you said obviously you had experience playing in the 80s and stuff, do you have a RPG or gaming memory, like either something catastrophic or something miraculous that happened in a session?
Well, let me just think. That's going back 40 years. Let me just have a think. No, nothing specific, but me and a very close group of friends, we played an entire school holidays, summer holidays, within one setting, which is Pavis and the Big Rubble, and that is completely, that's locked into my memory, that whole section. In fact, we were having a conversation with it, and really about the essence of what is role-playing games, and it's a shared hallucination. So you're all talking about something that's completely intangible, but you can, meet with your friends a few years from now and talk about what happened in the Upland Marsh. It didn't happen. All of you imagined it completely differently, but you've got that shared connection. And I think that's why friend groups are really strong within the community. And it's a really powerful thing.
One thing we've talked to a few people about is how, as adults, you don't play as much, you don't use your imagination as much. To be an adult, you have to be, just very serious and work-oriented and whatever. But I think it's good sometimes to just have that creativity and that bonding experience with your friends and let yourself play. And I think that also helps you in the real world. When you come into situations, you just have more empathy for people, and you have more improvisational skills. Yeah,
improv is really big.
Yeah, so I think it's something really important that, even though we're playing as silly little ducks.
Hi.
No, I love my ducks. But it's like this important thing that brings people together, and it really, I think it grows people to become better.
Well, if we're going to get deep about this as well,
we can.
So I think an even more fundamental part of that is storytelling.
Yes.
So storytelling is something that we really don't do very much in the modern world. But if you look around in the background, those are all campfires. That's a group of people telling a collective story. In groups that they're going to remember and pass on to other generations. Not as grand as that, but it's the same physiological thing that we're doing. It's fundamentally storytelling.
Yeah, storytelling,
which is a powerful human
especially the oral tradition or whatever. It's like, because now everything's you know, the internet and everything's easily accessible, sometimes good to have a in-person experience that only you and your friends share. Or
and alternatively as well, you know, you've got a story framework, which might be, you know, RuneQuest. I can meet somebody from Spain and we can have a conversation about a particular region in Glorantha. We'd never have met, we're from different cultures, we might be different races, different countries, but we've got that shared connection, even, you know, even if we have never played together. You know, they could visit this conference and we could sit down and immediately start either sharing experiences or, you know, talking about our gaming, you know, exploits. So yeah, it's very connecting.
Yeah. We usually on the show we focus on movies and TV shows and review that stuff.
Yeah.
Gut feeling, no correct, no wrong answer. Favorite movie?
My favourite movie?
Yes.
Oh God, this is always a tricky one, isn't it? Because it does sort of change.
Just whatever comes into your head.
There's an English movie from the 90s, I think, called With Neil and I.
Oh yes.
So
one.
I think that's I can sit down and watch that movie any time, and it still makes me laugh as well to this day.
Yeah.
And in fact, just on movies, in the scenario book, we have one scenario called The Quack for Terror, and the framework is loosely based on the movie Jaws.
Oh, cool.
With the same story beats and the same investigation and people going missing. And
That's awesome. What were the other inspirations? Obviously, other than like RuneQuest, like what are the other inspirations behind it?
The Viking kind of Cranog style accommodation was one thing.
I guess because they're ducks, they live in the marshlands.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Any sort of swamp culture or bayou or anything like that.
A few other movies as well. One of the scenarios is called The Burden of Proof, and it's very much a kind of what's the movie with Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson? The military courtroom. The Few Good Men.
Yeah.
Similar kind of thing. It's like a kind of courtroom drama where the ducks have had to go away and find proof of which tribes were complicit in the duck hunts, and then kind of stake their case against those. And it's a bit of a backwards and forwards courtroom drama. So.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for sitting down with us.
My pleasure.
Where can people find you, online or?
So my side gig, I run a board game online store called Legion Games, so legiongames.com.au. Otherwise you can find me on the Johnstown Compendium community Facebook page or any of those, or come to a con and play a game.
Yeah, say hello. Cool, we'll put all the links in the description and stuff like that. Thank you so much.
No dramas, my pleasure.
Thank you. Cool.